Hello, so welcome to my video about reading files in Databricks using Spark. So we're going to be reading, in this video, we're going to be reading files from DBFS, which is basically the file system local to the Databricks runtime. It's basically a place for you to store your files and like your data files and any of the files that you have. And you can also read files from your cloud provider's object stores, such as AWS S3 or Azure Blob. But in this lesson, I'm just going to be going through how you can read files from DBFS. So I have a bit of a cell here, which I'm using just to set up something for a bit later. So ignore that for now. But the first example for us here is reading CSV files. So when you want to read data using Spark, the thing you have to remember is you got to either use spark.read or spark.readstream. So spark.readstream, as the name suggests, is for streaming data, or if you want to, or if you're expecting new changes to come in, you want to stream them live to someone downstream, then you'd want to use spark.readstream. But in this example, we're going to be going through just spark.read, and I'll cover spark.readstream probably in another video. So yeah, so this first example, we're going to be reading a CSV file. So how we do that is we say spark.read.format, and then we set CSV. In the next line, we are setting our header to be true, which means that just says that the CSV file itself has a row at the top, which says the column name for each of the different columns. In first schema, we've set the true. That'll just tell the Spark runtime to try and guess what the schema is if you can. And the last bit is the .load function, which is just saying, hey, this is where the file sits in DBFS. So we're taking all this and we're assigning it to a variable, which inevitably becomes our data frame. So we'll give that a run. You can see I've run it before, but it's running, and there we go. So it took a few seconds to run, and we have our data frame. So what we'll do now is the next cell will say delays_df. I'm going to run the display method on that, and we can see that we have our data set here. So Databricks has just truncated the results to show the first 1,000 rows, and yeah, there we go. That's our data set. We've read the CSV file. In our next little example, we're going to read Parquet files. So Parquet files are pretty much the standard storage format. It's compressed and it's column storage as opposed to rows, as opposed to storing the data in rows. And yeah, so I'm going to introduce you all to another little command called the dbutils, which is Databricks utils, and then fs.head, which is synonymous to the Unix command head. So we say dbutils.fs, which means file system, and then we say head, and then it'll give you a bit of and if you put in the path of your data, then it'll give you a bit of a preview of that file. So this is very similar to the CSV example as well. What we're doing is instead of specifying the format to be CSV, we say Parquet. The header option I've just set as false. We see that it picks it up anyway. In first schema, we've set to true, and then we set the path of the data. So we will run this and assign this to a credit card's data frame, and we'll see what happens. Yep, it finished, and then we say display, run that again, and There we go. So we have our results. We can see here we've got a bit more of a complex data type here. It's basically an object which also contains a list. There we go. And once again, we have truncated this. Well, it's automatically been truncated to the first 1,000 rows. If you can also actually set the truncation off when you run your display, but with large data sets, we don't really tend to do that. It just prints everything out. And look, the third example here is we're going to be reading delta tables. How do we read a delta table? But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about delta. So basically, Delta Lake is a storage format that is natively supported by Databricks. It's created by the people who made Databricks as well. It's an open source library. Well, they actually open sourced it. And it's pretty much a thin layer of abstraction over your object store, and which provides database-like transaction capabilities. So instead of you dealing with an object store like S3 or Blob, you get to treat your data lake like a database. And this is called like the lakehouse architecture that Databricks champions. There are a few more other benefits to using Delta. I'm not going to go through them in this video because this is more specific to just reading the data out. But maybe we can go through it another time. But if you want to learn more, head over to delta.io or databricks.com/discover/demos/Delta Lake. You can just Google Delta Lake and you'll find everything that you ever wanted. But I'll put these links in the description of this video. So what we'll do now is we're going to read a delta table. So earlier on in this video, I ran a setup command, which actually went ahead and set up this table for us. So what we'll do now, we'll say spark.read.format, we say delta, and then we point to the table instead of load. You can see that we're using .table instead. And then we say credit cards, blah, 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 data frame dot display. So run that, and what do we get? We get, we read it, and then it's still fetching the results. And yep, it's done, and we are now displaying the data from the delta table. And this is actually the same as the credit cards data, which we loaded earlier, which was in Parquet. Okay, so remember what I said earlier about excuse me, delta tables are like databases, and like any database, you want to be able to query it using SQL. So when you create a delta table, although it's pointing to your object store, you're still able to query the delta format like a database, which is what I'm going to do here. So I've got my database name, and then I've got my table name here, so datatribe.creditcards, which is exactly what I queried in this previous cell. I said .table datatribe.creditcards. So if I go down, and then I just run this command, then it's going to read the data from that table using SQL. Any second now, yep, and there we go. And that's it. So now you know how to read CSV files, Parquet files, as well as a delta table. Thanks for tuning in.